This is the Alex and Alex show. We work for the Sonoma State University's Center for Sustainable Communities. As many of you standing room only probably are aware, back in 2009, a Benicia native named Mike Marcus was going to Cal Poly and talked everybody into doing a climate action plan for the city of Benicia, and finished that in a very efficient and effective manner in 2009. And then you had a climate action plan, but no one to implement it. So at that point, the city of Benicia decided to go out, and a couple years later, we were fortunate to be hired to provide climate action plan implementation services. And that's where our story starts, which is basically in 2012. Alex Porteshawver was hired to be your climate action plan implementer, and I had met her while working for Cal Poly, and she was doing a great job with the city of the metropolitan area of San Joaquin, in the southern San Joaquin Valley, and she was ready to move to the Bay Area and live the good life. So briefly, our center, we specialize in developing and implementing sustainability, climate action, protection, adaptation, and public health policies. We like to think that we utilize the expertise of faculty, people that I would refer to as recycled professionals. We've been used, reduced, reused, and recycled, and other folks, including our students, to help provide a cost-effective way to do good work for sustainable communities. And next slide. So we also provide service learning and mentoring opportunities for environmental planning, environmental studies and planning students. And we're currently assisting not only Benicia, but also Vallejo, and then Sonoma County, both their Permit Resource and Management Department and Regional Climate Protection Authority, as well as their Department of Health Services. And then last but not least, we're working on a project with the California Department of Water Resources on a integrated water and land management tool, which allows you to determine if you're using water-friendly practices early in the process.
At the table, too.
And it's at the table. We have a little summary of it. And I think, you know, this is kind of like being the warm-up band for a rock star, so I think I'm going to calm the crowd down and just hand it over to the other Alex, the young Alex, and she's going to tell you what's going on here in Benicia.
Okay.
And I'm going to hand you that. And that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you hear me okay on that? Oh, you're adjusting the volume?
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Wow.
That'd be much better. Yeah.
You hear me? It's louder than him. Hello, everyone. Okay. So I see you have a very loyal following, 3 of which are city staff members, so that's good. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what we do here in Benicia. Alex talked a little bit about the center. So as he mentioned, in February of 2012, we were hired to serve as the Climate Action Plan Coordinator. And really that means is we help the city to implement the Climate Action Plan, which was adopted in 2009. So I have a list of Climate Action Plan priorities that were vetted and approved by the Community Sustainability Commission and also by the City Council. And there are 9 priorities, which I'm happy to talk about offline with you, but just as an example, one is Property Assessed Clean Energy, which is a clean energy financing program. Businesses in our industrial park and businesses around the community can take advantage of funding. It appears on their property tax bill, and that's how they pay off the loan. Oftentimes the savings achieved through energy projects are used to pay off that loan. We also work on a couple residential incentive programs. Water conservation incentive program, which is going on right now. We offer rebates for to help residents make upgrades. So toilets, high efficiency washers, sprinkler heads, and smart irrigation controllers. We also also are running a residential solar incentive program, and we provided an incentive for each system that a resident installed, actually $3,000 per system. Another example are we work on some bike safety measures. We actually work with the excuse me, engineering department to stripe some additional bike lanes on Rose Drive. So that's just a sample of the projects that we work on. You'll see too other projects that are helping to implement the climate action plan and achieve greenhouse gas emission reductions. We kind of take those on as well. And on the next slide, I think it is, there are a list of some of those projects that we do work on. Okay, I got it. Yeah. So here are some current climate action plan projects. I didn't put them all on there, but the Business Resource Incentive Program, which if you stop by the Economic Development table just over there, they will tell you about this program. It is a comprehensive, sustainable business management program, and we offer no-cost sustainability analyses for businesses in the industrial park. And then we recommend some upgrades, whether they be clean energy upgrades or clean transportation measures, water conservation measures, and then we provide funding so that the business can actually implement those, either in the form of a grant or a no or low interest loan. I mentioned our 2 residential incentive programs. We also work on electric vehicle charging infrastructure, which is obviously very relevant to this expo. We have 2 charging stations at City Hall right now, and we're working on installing a fast charger at City Hall too, which would be backed by the solar and also by a battery tower, which would store energy from the solar and either be used by a charger or used to power the building in the event of an emergency. So that is actually a grant-funded project, and it should be available to the public in November. We also help the city update its greenhouse gas inventory. So all of these projects are great, but we need to measure what the impact of them is. So we took a look at all a number of different sectors, and we collected data about the emissions in each sector, and we measured them to see if we met our 2010 goal. And that also helps us to determine what our path forward is, because the city also adopted 2020 reduction goals. There's a summary of that inventory over there on our table, and there's also the full report if you're interested in learning more. The CAP policy analysis is another project we actually just started. We're coming up with new policies that might help us to achieve our reduction goals, and we're vetting those right now with city staff, and then eventually the Sustainability Commission will look at those policies as well. Let's see what else. We talked a little bit about grant funding. I actually wrote down some of the grants that we've gotten so far. So I mentioned we worked with the engineering department on striping more bike lanes on Rose Drive. That was a grant-funded project. The California Energy Commission awarded us a grant to install the fast charger at City Hall. And we've also gotten a grant to install another electric vehicle charging station at City Hall. And then we've applied for a number of other grants too that we're waiting to hear back about. So a lot of these projects in Benicia and in other cities are oftentimes grant funded. Project tracking. So I mentioned before, but we can't measure what we can't track. So we're coming up with a system, an online project management system where we're tracking the projects that we're working on now, the center is working on now, but also what the city has done in the past, so we can keep tabs on things and measure the reductions associated with each project. We also help the city to be more efficient. So right now we're looking at a fleet management project that could potentially reduce some of the vehicles in the city fleet and therefore reduce our costs. It's actually pretty cool too. It tracks the behaviors of the driver and suggests ways in which they can drive more efficiently to save fuel. And we also are managing and monitoring the city's energy use in an attempt to reduce emissions as well. The last program I already talked about, which was the Property Assessed Clean Energy Program, that's available to businesses in the city. We're also working on establishing a couple more PACE financing districts. They have slightly different models and may attract different businesses, smaller businesses, to take advantage of that funding. I'm happy to talk more about the projects, but the slide is short, so I put a few up there. But I'll be over at the table after this, and I'm happy to answer more questions. So let's see what's next. So this is kind of a cool graphic. It was part of our 2010 inventory report. And I mentioned that we measured the emissions in a variety of different sectors in the city, and this graphic just shows where those emissions occur in our community. So that big, large gray mass is actually industrial. So most of our emissions, which because we have a large industrial park and because we have an oil refining, come from that sector. And that's a little bit unusual because most of the time cities in California, transportation is the largest sector. For us, it's the second largest, but this I like it a little bit better because you get to see visually where they're coming from instead of just looking at the different sectors. Yeah, so the white area is residential, but the downtown is right there. You see the little yellow strip? That's commercial, and that's where the downtown area is. Yeah. And the green is open space. Was that a question? I can't hear you. Oh, okay. So the other Alex Hinds, mentioned that we work with Sonoma State University students to help us implement these projects. So far, I've worked with 2 different students who have been instrumental in getting projects done. One used an online energy management tool to track and monitor the energy use at city facilities. We also used it to track the savings associated with projects that have been implemented. The city did a number of energy efficiency upgrades, and we wanted to track those savings and potentially use the cost savings associated with those projects to fund future projects. We also just took advantage of a free program offered by the utility company to service our HVAC or our heating, ventilation, air conditioning equipment, the package units that sit on the top. And we can do some modeling and determine potential savings associated with those, and then take those savings and maybe even retrofit some of our very old equipment. And that will help us reduce our natural gas use and then obviously the greenhouse gas emissions for the city as well. And so that student helped track those projects. Another student helped significantly with the greenhouse gas inventory update. There were a lot of data calculations, data to be collected. The large report, which is over there on that table, which is close to 80 pages. He also got some presentation experience. He presented to the Community Sustainability Commission. So that same intern is also helping with our policy analysis right now, vetting existing climate action plan strategies and new ones to determine how we can meet our reduction goals. And helps me a lot with grant research and grant applications when we do decide to apply for one. One of the students is also helping to manage the water incentive program. He's had past experience in a different city managing, and so now he gets to use that experience here and help implement that. And then I already mentioned facility energy management. So just a few projects that they work on, and I'm always working with Alex to identify new students to help with projects, and they help us to do more because I'm one person, and so if we can get student involvement, they get great experience, and then it expands our project portfolio as well. So this is actually the last slide. I just wanted to talk a little bit about how you all can get involved in what we're doing. So the Community Sustainability Commission puts on a number of workshops. In the past, they've talked about clean energy, green business, food sustainability. So definitely keep your eye out for that. We post them on our Sustainable Benicia website and also on the city's website. SustainableBenicia.org just launched in May of this year, and really it just talks about all of the different climate planning efforts in the city. There are a number of resources available for residents and businesses. It also has an events page where you can see what's going on in the community and how you can get involved. And then lastly, I would encourage you to come to the Community Sustainability Commission meetings where we talk about a lot of these topics. And they're bi-monthly, and the next meeting is actually in November. And we'll be talking about the climate action plan strategies that I mentioned before. So I would encourage you all to come and participate in those meetings. So that's it. I'm happy to answer questions about anything I've talked about or just general questions that you have about climate planning.